I'm really excited to bring this week's episode to you because I know that this concept I'm about to share with you, or the concepts I'm sharing with you, are really going to change the game for you. Whether you already have a thriving business or you've not yet left your salary job and you're contemplating what it looks like to set up your own business, you're going to find this episode really, really useful. It's going to be a combination of strategy, also mindset and identity and frequency. So it's a really holistic approach to how to reach your next level. So if you already have a business, I invite you to approach it from this perspective. Looking at the gaps between where you are and where you want to be in terms of income and client acquisition. But if you are starting out, it can feel really overwhelming, right? Like, where do I even begin? This is going to give you a structure of where to begin, what to focus on, and what to think about. So welcome to this week's incredibly powerful, power-packed podlet. My name is Rachel, and I'm your host for these mini magical journeys together. What I'm about to share with you, you're going to potentially roll your eyes and go, Rachel, that sounds so logical. Like, why are you telling us that? I already know it. And then when we start to break it down, you're going to realize the gap in your understanding of these concepts. And that's the gap you want to be focusing on. Because once you get this, once you truly understand these three things I'm about to share, then each next level for you in your business is going to be so much easier to reach. You're going to be able to create a clear plan to get there. So these are the three concepts. You want to be successful in business, you need these three things. You need something to sell, people to sell it to, and you need to be selling it all of the time. See what I mean? You're like, well, yeah, obviously. That's so obvious. But this is the thing, when clients come to me and we start working together, we actually sit down with these three and we realize that some of them aren't doing any of them, or they're only doing them for a really small amount. Like, their focus on them is actually very minor. And when we sit down and I ask them questions, they're like, oh, now I understand why I'm not making more money. Now I get it. Now I see what the gap is, what the bridge is. So let's start with the first part, something to sell. Now, if you're new, let's break it down. If you're already in business, this is going to be really helpful to hear. Like, are your shop doors open all of the time? Like, if you're not making the amount of money you want to be making, are you actually selling something all of the time? Or are you just selling it every now and then? Do you actually have enough things to be selling to enough people? Or do you just have something, is your shop door just open every now and then, and people have like one or two things that they can purchase from you, and then once they've got that, there's nothing else they can buy until maybe next month. You know, if you're a yoga teacher, until next month, and they buy their next pack of sessions. And then you're like, why am I not making more money? That's why. Because there's a gap. You don't have something new and extra to sell to your clients. But let's break it down as though you were, just starting out, because this is something that people miss out on. And for those of you who are wondering, I run an online school. The strategic part is what we cover in level 2 of the school. Yeah, so you being able to break these down and understand what they look like in your business. So I see too many people starting a business without understanding the market. And then once they're already running the business, wondering why what they're trying to sell, people aren't purchasing it. Because there are two things. You want to have a proven product that the market values, because once you have that, everybody wants to buy it. Everybody who values that product or service wants to purchase it. So let's focus on one obvious proven product that the market values, which is a chair. Yeah. Why is it that the market values it and it's a proven product? Because everybody wants chairs in their homes so they can sit down. Why is it a proven product? Because they understand the value. People don't question the value of a chair. They're like, yeah, a chair is valuable because I put it in my home and I sit on it. When it comes to yoga, for example, is that a proven product? Does the market value it? It really depends on where you are. If you were to go to a village where nobody practices yoga, do people understand it? Does the market value it? Versus if you're in a city and you're setting up a studio in the center of a city where lots of people understand yoga and they want to practice it. Different concept. So I know a lot of you are wanting to sell to the market wellness, confidence, happiness, healing, transformation, alignment, embodiment. And you create this product that you know changes lives, and then you struggle to sell it. And you're like, what's happening? Like, what's the gap? That is the gap. The gap is understanding what the market values and understanding how to prove your product to the market so they understand it at the level of a chair. They're like, yes, a chair is to sit on. There are comfortable chairs, there are garden chairs. There are chairs for taking to the beach, there are chairs for watching television. So people don't have to question their understanding of the concept of a chair. Once you reach that point with the market, once you understand how to present what you do in that way, then it's really easy. You don't have people asking questions. They're like, oh, so is it a garden chair, a beach chair, or a sofa? And then you're being able to describe the difference between those. And that's part of your marketing, describing the difference. But here is the thing is, when it comes to creating a proven product, how does your identity, mindset, and confidence get in the way? Is when you attach your worthiness to whether or not people are buying and whether or not people understand. When you're worried and stressed and anxious about learning these things. When you're worried, stressed, and anxious about people judging you and what you're putting out there. When we separate strategy, mindset, identity, belief, confidence, all of those things, there are gaps. It's not about focusing on one or the other. It wants to be a global, holistic approach. But now let's break down the second concept. Maybe you find you even need a pause to understand that first one. Now, obviously, I'm going through it really quickly, so you can begin to have clarity on what something is. But to truly understand this, you only have space. This is why when you hear people saying, oh yeah, build your business and make 100K in your first month, for that to be possible, there's a certain amount of understanding that is required first of what it is you're launching, what it means to actually make 100K in your first month, or 10K, or 5K, or 1K in your first month, or have your first client. There are elements of understanding that you want a bit of time to sit with them. So it's only normal. We try to rush to the goal too quickly. Give yourself space and time. And what does that look like for you to really set yourself up for success and enjoy the journey of learning? Let's dive into the second concept, people to sell it to. So in our live yesterday, in our 3-day live event, which by the way, if you haven't attended yet, I highly recommend. I'm going to share the link in the description and you'll get immediate access to the replays and you can start binge watching those. So in day 3 of this event, I was mentioning this and somebody said, well, I've got something to sell. And I said, well, do you have people to sell it to? No. Are you selling it all of the time? No. It's like, well, this is why it's not working. This is the gap. Amazing. Now we know what the gap is. Let's focus on that. So for some of you, selling to people you know feels comfortable, but selling to strangers that you meet online, that's the gap for you. And so we've got the strategic part, but let's focus on the identity, confidence, and mindset first. For some of you who already have a business, you only sell to people that know you, and that's your comfort zone. And that's what's creating a massive glass ceiling, a really thick glass ceiling on your income, because you're only focusing on where you're comfortable, which is people who know you. And you're not stepping outside of that comfort zone to selling to people who haven't met you yet and understanding what it is to close the gap. It's a different feeling selling to strangers. introducing yourself to the possibility of failure, rejection, judgments, people disagreeing with you, people not liking you. And so when it comes to the confidence part, these are the parts of self that we're meeting. But there'll be some of you who you're really comfortable selling to strangers. Your uncomfortable zone is selling to people that know you. Because you've built up an identity, you've built up a relationship with those people, and your fear is them judging you. Your fear is that by bringing this to the world, they're going to feel differently about you, and they're going to see you differently. And these things can go on unconsciously underneath the surface level. We don't realize they're happening. And so we actually avoid the very thing that's going to help us grow because we're not consciously aware of the fact that we're afraid of it. That our nervous system is telling us it's not safe to go there, don't do it. And so we focus on, some of you are just focusing on strangers. You're just focusing on cold leads so as not to face the discomfort of the people who already know you, who would probably sign up a lot faster. For others of you, it's the other way around. But now let's go into the strategy element. The journey of learning how to grow your audience with people who want to buy from you, specifically you, and they want to buy what you sell. This is the strategic part. Like actually learning that process. What does it mean to grow my audience? What does that actually mean? What does it look like? What are tangible, actionable steps to do that? I'm not going to be teaching you on that in today's episode. That would be a pretty long episode. But maybe that's the thing you want to go away and research. So to give you an idea, in level 1 of the school, we're focusing on your mental, emotional, and physical resistance to your growth. What's the identity gap? What's the confidence gap? Like, what are the shadows that are coming up for you? What is it you're afraid of? And let's actually face that fear and get curious. Let's remove the glass ceiling on your identity and your confidence so you're building more confidence. You're stepping into another level of leadership and you're stepping into another level of inner safety, and you're able to actually serve people from that place. So can you begin to hear how the identity, nervous system, and mindset work is really important? But then there's the strategy part. This is what we covered in level 2. In level 2, that's where you actually learn. This is where I invite you to be excited and hungry to learn for the pure joy of learning. Yeah, because sometimes for some of you, the resistance is actually investing your time in learning, being the beginner and not understanding concepts, getting frustrated because you don't understand it yet. And I get it. That was me. It's only normal to feel frustrated because something, you don't quite get it, you're trying it, you're not getting the results, and you try again and you're still not getting the results, and it's only normal to get frustrated. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is so that you actually let go of trying to resist the frustration and actually lean into it, surrender to it. And can you shift your frequency and shift your perception to, actually, it's beautiful to be a beginner. How about I enjoy this process and get really curious and enjoy, just like, I don't know, learning to do a headstand. And you don't get it, you don't get it, you don't get it, you don't get it, until one day you're like, oh, I'm in a headstand, and you hold it for 5 seconds. You're like, yes. Approach it from that place. This is one of my zones of genius with clients, because I work many years in fitness, is actually getting them to fall in love with the journey of learning and those micro moments of wins where they see progress, and be excited to notice the progress every single time they come back to the mat, every single time they come back to lifting the weight. Can you approach your business journey in the same way? Now let's go to the third concept. The third concept is selling all of the time. This is where I find the majority of my clients have the most resistance. And so this is where we do plenty of shadow work, plenty of confidence work, and then also a sprinkle of strategy, obviously. Now, why do I say first the shadow work and the confidence work? Because when you're selling all of the time, unless you've cleaned up your feelings around selling, you're probably going to feel some stuff. Yeah. And for different people, it's different things. So for some of you, you're going to feel like you're being manipulative. You're going to feel like you're being pushy. You're going to feel like when you're selling, you're stealing something from people. If that's going on for you, it's really powerful to actually meet that, get curious, and understand what it is. Because when we want to show up and really be aligned when we're selling, so we're selling from the frequency of service, a desire to see the person in front of us thrive, to actually genuinely bring them value. If you're holding on to stories and feelings around selling being bad, that's actually going to get in the way of you helping the people you're here to help. So not only is cleaning up your feelings and stories around selling going to mean that you sell more, it means that you can actually serve the people you're here to serve instead of getting in your own way because of the stuff you have about selling. So how do you feel about selling? How do you feel about being sold to? Are you super like, when someone starts selling to you, do you resist it? Are you like, ew, get away from me? Like, what are your reactions? Like across the spectrum of different types of sales. Because everywhere that you resist, you have a story and you have a feeling in your nervous system, which will hold you back from selling from a very aligned place. Because selling from an aligned place looks like this. You know the value of what you do, you know the people that it helps, and you're able to describe it in a way that those people understand it, so that they themselves can determine if they're going to say yes or no. There's no techniques, there's no manipulation, there's no taking something from someone they do not want to give. Aligned sales is you know the value, you're confident in presenting it, and you're presenting it to people that it serves in a way that they understand it, so they can then decide for themselves. They can lead themselves through the decision. It's a completely different frequency of sale. So can you begin to hear some of the things that stand out for you? Confident selling. What is confident selling? It's you're going to meet things like seeking external validation when selling. Somebody ghosts you, it affects you emotionally. Somebody says no to you, you have an emotional response. Like all of these things are an impact on the nervous system. They want to be cleaned up, but not only that, when you're seeking the yes to feel good, you're not selling from an aligned place. You're selling from the frequency of seeking the validation in the other. That also is going to get in the way of you presenting it from your heart, not from your need to have somebody else tell you who you are. So can you see now how the inner mastery work really changes the game, because then strategy is completely different. You're approaching it from a completely different perspective. And then imagine the interactions you're having with people. Imagine the groundedness of the conversations that you're having versus the, are they going to say yes? Am I going to get a sale? Is money coming in this month? That's not the frequency from which we want to sell. Now, let's focus on the strategy part in a minute to break it down for you. I know some of you are interested in the school. That is the part we also cover in the school. The stuff that comes up for you when you're doing the things in your business. Clearing it up so you can really show up from a very grounded, neutral place, so you can really be of service to others. So what's the strategic part? Let's break that down nice and simply. The strategic part to selling is, let's come back to the proven product and the market value, is learning to be able to communicate something in a way that people understand it in a very few words. Yeah, that's what the strategic part is. You've got to know your people. Know your people, know what they're thinking, know what they want, know what they desire, know how what you offer helps them get what they desire. And then being able to describe it in a way that they understand, oh, this person has something that helps me get what I want. And therefore I value it and want to purchase it. So can you see how what at first sounded like so much logical, like a really logical concept that to be successful in business, you've got to have something to sell, people to sell it to, and be selling it all of the time. It sounds logical. And when you break it down, it actually shows you where the gaps are in your strategy, in your skills, in your knowledge, in your confidence, in your nervous system responses. Then you actually understand what it is you want to be focusing on. Where does your attention and intention want to be placed to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be? And listening to this, some of you are going to feel overwhelmed. Rachel, that sounds like a lot. Yeah, I get it. But here's the piece. One of the really powerful things to focus on is letting go of the worry of your own success, letting go of needing to get to the goal as quickly as possible, letting go of seeking the external validation or evidence for you to feel okay, and actually choosing, like a child who loves being a beginner and learning new things, actually choosing to love the journey of growth, to fall in love, like the pure joy of learning. And coming back to that again and again and again, not trying to control your timeline of how fast you get to the things, to actually allow your timeline to be the timeline that it is, not that you need to be there yesterday. Because as soon as you surrender to all of that, you actually realize how beautiful that journey is. So what would it look like to allow yourself to be guided and supported? Some of you are trying to figure all of this out by yourselves, and then you're wondering why it feels so hard. You're wondering why you feel so overwhelmed. You're wondering why you're trying so hard, you're putting so much effort into something and not getting the results. Can you now see from that one concept we focused on how many elements there are to it? If you do not have an expert guiding you through these things, it's only normal that there are gaps in your understanding and your knowledge and your skills. So something that we talked about in day 3 of this event is the following. As a woman leader, you're resourced, you're supported, and you invest in the things that help you to move forwards. So if what you want is to be incredibly successful in business, to run your own company, to have financial and time freedom, it's really important that you're resourced. And investment is a normal part of your growth. Not just investment financially, also time, focus, and effort. And so if you're looking to set yourself up for success, rather than trying to avoid those investments, how do you set yourself up for success? Like, what's your current resistance or limitation? Is it the money? Like, do you have stuff around money? Are you in lack around money? What does it look like to set yourself up? Like, for me, I rebuilt one business to fund the new one I was building, which is now my full-time business. Yeah, I rebuilt a business that had collapsed in quarantine. I rebuilt it in new ways, purely to fund learning the skills I needed to learn to have the business I have today. So what does it look like for you to do something like that? If the financial aspect you want to be focusing on, because to grow in business requires financial investment. What does it look like to set yourself up time-wise for success? If you're really busy, you're currently in a job that doesn't give you space, or you have so many responsibilities, to actually sit down and plan. So when I rebuilt my old business, what I did was I rebuilt it in a very different way to how it was before. I actually structured it differently so there was time and I had energy and capacity to actually focus on learning for setting up my new business, to actually focus on creating momentum, so putting things into place to get things going. It did require quite a bit of effort from me to build my old business back in a different way to make that possible. It was worth it. And then third is the effort. It's the effort and the intention and attention. Sometimes you have resistance to that. That's only normal because we don't like the feeling of being a beginner again and the frustration of not understanding something at first. So what does it look like for you to do what I mentioned earlier and to actually shift your relationship around being a beginner? To focus on the micro wins, to actually enjoy experiencing your own progress, not getting to the end result, purely the minor progress along the way. To notice what used to feel hard now feels a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier. When you're focusing too much on needing to arrive at the results, you actually rob yourself of the joy of the journey itself. So, like I said, this week's episode, it was exciting for me to share it with you because I know those of you who actually use this information, it's really going to change the game for you. And I know there was a lot in this. So break it down and focus on one thing at a time, not all of it. And if you want support, if you don't want to do it on your own, if you value having me in your ear and you would like me to guide you, then maybe the school is your next step. I'm going to include also the link to the brochure so you can look at the school memberships. And I invite you to write me, if you've got questions, send me a DM. In day 4 and 5 of this event that we're hosting, you're going to meet one of my students. You're going to hear from her what it's like being in the school. You can access a whole list of testimonials of other clients who've shared their experiences. And I will be hosting a Q&A, a question and answer, on what the school memberships look like on day 5. So you're fully resourced to be able to understand what the school is like. You can ask me questions directly. I look forward to hearing from you. And I will see you, or we will connect again in next week's episode of your Power Packed Podlets.